All right, greetings everyone. Welcome to the fourth part of the video for section 6.2. Finishing up just the last little bit about the other trig functions and their graphs. All right, so something that I'm not going to go through, but I would like for you to do, is on your graphing calculator or whatever graphing device you are using, is to take some time to graph now the cotangent function. And recall, if the calculator you are using does not have a cotangent button, you can use the identity for cotangent, or one of the identities, which is 1 over tangent, to graph that, since that's the same as cotangent. And then from that graph, I want you to determine the period, domain, and range of the cotangent function. And once you have that information, then I want you to look and see how that compares to the period, domain, and range of the tangent function. Okay, so go ahead, and I would suggest pausing this video and taking some time to do that. No, really, go ahead and do it. Okay, I'll wait. Did you do it? Okay. You can also check your answers in the textbook after you have them. All right, so that takes us to our last thing for this section, some more identities. So if you recall from earlier in this chapter, we looked at what we were calling negative angle identities for sine and cosine. So recall that sine of negative theta was equal to negative of sine theta, because sine was an odd function. And then cosine of negative theta equals just cosine of theta, because cosine was an even function. We can then use this information to help us find the negative angle identities for the other four trigonometric identities. So let's go ahead and do that. So for tangent of negative theta, first of all, we know, using our basic identity for tangent, that can be written as sine of negative theta over cosine of negative theta, which then, using the identities from above, we see sine of negative theta is negative sine theta, cosine of negative theta is just cosine of theta. So this has become negative sine over cosine, which we could write as this, negative sine over cosine. Sine over cosine, as we know, is tangent, so this becomes negative tangent of theta. So we see then that tangent of negative theta equals negative tangent of theta, which tells us tangent is also an odd function. All right, continuing on, cosecant, and I'm sorry, I'm going to erase this to make room. Cosecant, we know, is equal to 1 over sine, so cosecant of negative theta will be equal to 1 over sine of negative theta, which, as we know from above, sine of negative theta is negative sine of theta, which you can rewrite as negative of 1 over sine theta, which will just become negative cosecant of theta. So from there, we again see that cosecant is also an odd function. All right, secant of negative theta. So again, we know secant is 1 over cosine, so secant of negative theta would be cosine of negative theta. We know cosine of negative theta just gives us cosine of theta. So 1 over cosine then becomes secant. So here we actually see that secant of negative theta, or sorry, secant is an even function, since secant of negative theta equals secant, which hopefully isn't too surprising, considering cosine was a even function, or an even function. And then finally, for cotangent, in this case, I'm going to use the identity, whoops, sorry about that, there we go. I'm going to use the identity that cotangent is 1 over tangent, so 1 over tangent of negative theta. And we just saw that tangent was an odd function, so this became negative of tangent of theta, which gives us negative of 1 over tangent of theta. For 1 over tangent, that gives us cotangent, so this is negative of cotangent of theta. So we see here that cotangent is also an odd function. Okay. All right, that's it for section 6.2. Thank you for watching.